Months had passed since Dr. Alia Bhandari, Elena, and Marcus returned from Sable Mountain, leaving behind their friend Logan and a mystery that continued to haunt them. The days blurred together as each struggled to move forward, but the mountain's presence lingered in their minds, refusing to let them go. Alia's nights were filled with vivid dreams where Logan would appear, his face marked with strange symbols, standing in front of the crystal in the cavern, his expression distant and unreadable. Each dream left her feeling drained, as though the mountain itself had somehow reached out and left its mark on her. For Elena, strange symbols began appearing everywhere, in her notebooks, the condensation on her coffee mug, even in the random scrawls of strangers she passed. It was as if the language of the Etulians was following her, pushing her to remember what she had learned in the cave. She tried to ignore it, hoping it would fade, but the symbols seemed to grow stronger and clearer with time. Marcus, desperate to forget, pored over the footage he had managed to salvage. He was convinced that if he could piece together some part of what they had seen, he might understand it better, or perhaps prove it had all been a figment of their imaginations. Yet, late one night, as he reviewed his files, he stumbled across something new. It was a file labeled Sable Footage, one he hadn't seen before. The images were jumbled and blurred, brief, flickering clips of Logan standing alone in the crystal chamber, his face barely visible, his eyes unfocused. The only sound was a faint voice, murmuring, "Return to the mountain." Disturbed, Marcus immediately contacted Alia and Elena, and within days they had gathered an unspoken understanding that they would have to go back. They set out in silence, each privately dreading what they might find yet feeling compelled to uncover the truth. Arriving at the mountain, they felt a strange sense of familiarity mixed with a deep unease. The path wound upward, with the same fog creeping around them, and it felt as though no time had passed since their last visit. As they neared the entrance to the cave, Elena noticed that the symbols on the stones looked different, somehow sharper, as if freshly carved. When she examined them closely, she found new meanings in the symbols, piecing together phrases like "bound by the crystal" and "the prophecy fulfilled." A chill crept over her as she translated aloud to Alia and Marcus, but she tried to shake off the feeling. Inside, the air was dense and cold, and every step felt heavy. The shadows flickered as they made their way to the heart of the mountain, and Alia found herself reaching back to memories of her dreams, where each turn and corridor was eerily familiar. They finally reached the chamber where they had last seen Logan, the crystal pulsing softly in the darkness. Yet, to their horror, Logan was still there, standing motionless, staring into the crystal with the same blank expression they remembered. His face was etched with symbols, faded but visible, as if marked by the mountain itself. "Logan," Alia's voice broke through the silence, echoing around the cavern. Slowly, he turned, his expression still distant, his eyes unfocused, and then he spoke in a voice that sounded foreign and hollow. "You shouldn't have returned. The mountain is binding you now, just as it bound the Etulians." A sense of dread washed over the group. "What do you mean?" Alia asked, her voice barely a whisper. Logan's face was expressionless. "The Etulians gave themselves to the mountain to protect it, to keep its power contained. Their spirits are bound here, and now it's our turn. The mountain has claimed me, and it has marked all of you. No one who enters Sable Mountain truly leaves." The words sank in, a sickening realization. Marcus raised his camera, recording every second, as if documenting it might help them understand, or maybe even break, the curse. Logan's gaze moved over each of them, and a flicker of recognition passed over his face, a glimpse of the man they had known. "Go now, before it's too late. Leave me, leave this place. One of us must stay to keep the balance." "We're not leaving you," Alia said, but even as she spoke, the chamber began to tremble, and the crystal's glow intensified, filling the room with a searing light. Shapes formed in the air around them, like spectral figures, their faces solemn and watchful. Alia realized with horror that these were the spirits of the Aetulians, bound forever to protect the crystal, guardians of the mountain's secrets. Their faces were serene but resolute, and they seemed to chant in a language none of them could understand. Elena stepped forward, attempting to translate, but the words eluded her. Logan's expression softened, almost as if he was saying goodbye. "This is the prophecy, the curse of the mountain. One must stay, bound to guard its power." "No, we'll find a way to break it," Marcus protested, though his voice trembled with doubt. The walls of the cavern shook, and the spirits grew more vivid, reaching toward them with gestures that felt like warnings. The crystal pulsed faster, brighter, and the mountain itself seemed to be calling for a sacrifice, demanding a life to keep its power contained. Elena, realizing the futility of their situation, whispered, "If one of us stays, maybe the others can leave. Maybe we'll be free from the curse." Logan nodded, his face resigned. "Go, take my story with you. Tell the world of the Aetulians, of the crystal, of the mountain's curse. Don't let this place take you as it took them." Before they could respond, a tremor ran through the floor, and the light from the crystal flared, blinding them. When the light faded, Logan was gone, and the chamber was silent, the crystal now dim and still. Alia, Elena, and Marcus exchanged looks, a heavy sorrow settling over them. They had lost Logan to the mountain, but they knew he was still there, bound as a guardian like the Aetulians before him. They left the mountain in silence, the weight of their experiences settling heavily upon them. In the weeks that followed, they shared their story in a report that merged history, archaeology, and legend, speaking of the vanished tribe, the mystical crystal, and the strange, haunting events surrounding Sable Mountain. While many were skeptical, the story spread, and whispers of the cursed mountain, of a crystal demanding souls, found their way into folklore. Despite their efforts to move on, Alia, Elena, and Marcus each felt an unshakable pull, a quiet whisper in their dreams, calling them back to Sable Mountain. Though they had escaped, part of them remained tied to that place, and they understood that the mountain's grip would never fully release them.